do an improv sentence.
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy asshole, which is you.
See, that's not an improv sentence because you said all of the words and I got to say none.
Hi.
But it would be funny if we both got up and then just like bow, like ha ha.
Yeah, we did that.
Most excellent.
My impression of you was spotless.
Improv.
Improv.
That's how it works.
That's exactly how it works. What one person is control of everything.
Check the audio.
And
Check the audio.
And so this is the 4th episode of the podcast. Holy shit.
Yeah, woo, episode 4.
They thought it wouldn't last.
I just thought it wouldn't last. I thought after 1 we'd both be like, we have a lot of things to seriously reconsider.
I thought I would just walk out of your house after the first episode and then that piano they were moving in upstairs would just fall on me, honestly.
Well, but you were so prepared. You brought your tiny umbrella.
I know, and it was made of the same Acme material Wile E. Coyote used.
I didn't
It had a
see-
5-star on Coyote Yelp, because coyotes...
Coyote, yo.
That's what coyotes do. Okay.
Acme brand skates, 1 out of 5. Didn't help me catch Roadrunner. Acme brand magical paint, 2 out of 5. Made magical tunnel,
But
didn't help me catch Roadrunner.
I would follow... Somebody needs to make, like, a friggin' account on Yelp and do that. Like, restaurants. Like, I had the pheasant, but it didn't help me catch Roadrunner.
And that's just like always their qualifier at the end.
Oh, God.
That would be pretty funny, actually. If someone judged restaurants fully accurately and had like a wealth of food knowledge, like, look, the seared scallops were amazing. You can tell they weren't rubbery. The tarragon sauce that went with it was sublime. It was a perfect marriage. But, you know, this didn't make my car faster. So it's like, whoa.
Do you have a chain steering wheel? If there was a cut there, sorry.
This is magic. Don't worry about what happens behind the
I'm
scenes.
going to have sparkles there when that happens. Anyway.
All right, I'll get it back on track. Fine, if you're so desperate.
Fairy magic. Anyway. So tell me, what'd you do this week?
Oh, you know, not much, really. That's really it. I didn't have a great story. My buddy from the East Coast was in town, so we went out a couple times, you know, just celebrated him being back, and he's engaged, which is cool.
Nice.
So we were like, hey, let's take him out and, you know, show him a good time back in his old stomping
His
grounds.
old hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, I kind of just worked and played a lot of Xbox. I am living the dream.
Yeah.
You know, if you looked at a picture of the dream in the dictionary, it would just be a picture of my face.
And then underneath it, it'd be the musician, the dream. Or just dream. I don't know if he has a the in his name.
And then it would be the movie poster for Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah. And then Field of Dreams. And then DreamWorks. And then Wet Dreams. So...
Really don't want to see the picture associated with that one in the
No,
dictionary.
nobody does.
But yeah, that's about it. How about you, man?
So, the last episode, the fabulous Blood on the Wiener, I mentioned that...
Can't believe you made that the title.
Yeah, because I wanted that picture of Fiddy reaching for that hot dog. Anyway.
That is a great picture.
Uh-huh.
Well done. You picked a great picture of him, like in terms of the seriousness of it, because the whole metaphor is just, I imagine him just being like, blood on the wiener, man. It happens to the best of us.
It's like the Jay-Z mustard hot dog.
Did you... I hate to sidetrack us again, but real quick, did you see the first pitch 50 Cent threw out at that baseball game?
No.
So, I'll show it to you afterward or whatever. And
Sure.
We'll put a link in, I guess.
I can do it.
Along with the post, but...
Yeah.
he throws out this first pitch that just flies and, like, dovetails way off to the left. And it's terrible, and, like, he got all, like... crucified in the media for it or whatever.
Yeah.
And he went on Reddit a few days or weeks later or whatever and was doing an AMA and someone's like, can you explain what happened in this pitch? He was like, give me a break, man. That's the hand I jerk it with. And I was like, oh.
Own that shit.
Terrific answer, buddy.
So you're 50 Cent. You have to jerk it still. Never mind.
The temptation never goes away.
He's just riding dirty. And he's just like,
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Super dirty. Anyway.
You were saying about the 3rd episode of the podcast?
Right. So I mentioned that I got an Artist Alley table for like the first time ever. I'm really excited about it. And so, given that I've only had about a month or so to prepare, I'm kind of just been getting all my stuff done for that. So just over this last week, I was just getting all that stuff done, and all of the the banner I ordered, the postcards I made, those are all going to be coming in this week. So yeah, just a lot of work time has been spent doing that. It's funny because recently, this is actually might be a more serious note, more serious than Blood on the Wiener could possibly ever be. No. But I was thinking about like my life in terms of like the plans I have, and so I gave myself. I've been trying to not make it because make it's subjective, but I've been working as an artist, freelance-ish, doing comics, doing stuff for games, and doing stuff like that for the past like 2-3 years. And it's getting to the point where it feels like that kind of life for me has left me with a certain lack of direction. It's fun to do, but it doesn't feel like I'm going forward enough. So I'm putting it to myself. I'm going to give myself January 1st of 2015, I'm going to give myself 2 years where I'm just going to hustle as hard as I possibly can, pursue any opportunity that I either make for myself or find to become an artist and make it in my own way. And if I don't, shipping off to the Navy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bold goal.
It's
definitely bold.
Yeah, for me, it's the proper motivation because, like, I'm not backing out of this because this was a promise I even made to myself in high school. I said to myself, like, if my hands are going to be put to creating something, put it to destroying something. Nah.
Yeah, that old chestnut.
Yeah.
Yes, I say it all the time.
We even getting deeper into family stuff. We have 2 family members in the military, and it's worked out well for them. So why the hell? Why not just do it for me too?
Well, yeah, and one of my favorite writers online, Matt Ufford, I think I'm pronouncing his last name right. He was in, I want to say, the Marines, and when he came back, he got like a job that he hated or whatever, and then he dovetailed that somehow into like, becoming a blogger or whatever. He's a fantastic writer.
Yeah.
And, like, whatever. His life seems cool. I'm not sure his service gave him direction, per se, but I don't think he was at a time in his life where much would have given him directions, but at least gave him something.
Yeah, so it's kind of how I feel right now, because there's only so long you can actually be like, hey, I'm cool still living at my parents' house, just trying to make shit work.
Yeah, right. I plan to go back and do that again when I'm in, like, my 50s, just to be, like, assertive about it. Like, I'm always welcome here.
You told me this.
You told me this was okay, and you can't back out of it.
Dang it.
It's
That's
fun.
what Dad's gonna sound like eventually. Dang it.
I hope so. Boy, that would be awesome.
Okay, so...
It's funny, though, that you mention it and you phrase it like that, and I don't mean to cut you off if you're not done, but, that's kind of the subject of what I had for this 4th one.
Oh, really?
You said... Yes, as a matter of fact, yes.
Okay.
It was just going to be about work and life and goals and dreams and all those sort of ambiguous concepts or whatever.
Say word, son. Say word.
Just because it's a thing. I was trying to think of motivation for a topic,
Yeah.
Anything I was passionate about or wanted to talk about in particular.
And I realized I wasn't passionate about anything, and why am I still alive?
Well, that's half true.
God dang it, now I'm the asshole.
You kind of are, but the other option was like, look, I don't want to do a 4-hour, like, let's just talk about hockey and football podcast, because that would be
I could join you a little bit on hockey. I don't give a shit about football.
The point is, I was like, well, it's a thing that everyone deals with, and it's a thing I think about a lot, so hey.
Yeah.
Why not? And it's going to be a little different this time, because I don't really have a direction for it. I don't really have notes.
If that encapsulates it perfectly.
I was going to say, real different from the last few times, huh? No direction at all.
Not even one.
But I just figured, whatever, man. We'll just have a talk.
All right, go for it.
We'll just have, whatever thoughts come to mind. The biggest thing to me, like the big overarching concept in my mind is like the current state of the workplace, at least as far as mine is, and most of the industry still is, is just so broken. Like, we're both in America, that's fine. I feel comfortable admitting that.
Try and find us.
Yeah, right. Good luck.
I said they could cross-reference shit I've said before, so...
Whatever, that's not the point. The point is, like, the American workplace is kind of broken, and I don't mean that in like a, man... Europe's such a great utopia sort of way. Europe forever.
So that first year of college type of smarmy ass, like America's so behind.
First through like 9th. For the people that don't leave.
Okay.
But like, it's so like it's so driven by the nature of, like, in order for you to do, you have to be here.
Yeah.
And that rubs me such the wrong way.
It's a mentality that's instilled in you because the people who make a lot of most of the money are people who are managers and bosses.
Right.
Like, I was talking to a guy, one of our neighbors. Hey, Frank. How you doing? You're a good guy. Good old Frank and his dog, Georgie.
It's funny that you mentioned Frank, because there was that one podcast where you talked about Frank West the whole time.
Yep.
I just get the sense you connect with Franks.
I connect with Franks and Bruces.
We should have called the last episode Blood on the Frank. Missed opportunity.
Anyway, so I was just talking to him about that, and he's a business savvy kind of guy. He watches like CNBC fucking all the time and a bunch of business channels. He's talking about like the nature of freelance work and like employment, like that kind of stuff in America. And it's like, it's not too far off where like in the future, more than half of the work that a lot of companies are going to do or even get is going to be freelance for hire type people, because it's way easier to just reach out and say like, hey, do you do this? Okay, we'll pay you a bit and you can do this for us.
Yeah, well, and like I'm at a job now where a lot of the spots, including spots that have disappeared in the like couple months that I've been there, have all just been contract work.
Yep.
Because it's like, well, we have this need or whatever, and then, you know, great, come fill it and then you're done. But like to me, the bigger issue is like, look, I have a good idea of what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Sure.
And it's silly to imagine that, you know, this isn't the fucking Ford factory line where everyone's making a car and it's you spend the X number of hours and you'll always be able to make like X number of cars.
Yeah.
And that the longer you're there, the more productive you are. Like most jobs now are intellectual capital jobs. It's like you have only so much to offer, and it takes a totally variable amount of time. Yeah. And I'm totally insulted by the idea that it's like, if you aren't there as often,
you're not productive.
That you're not productive, or that you don't care.
Yeah.
The fact that people act like...
That's actually something that I had to deal with when I was working at Liquid, when I was in-house.
Yeah.
Because, like, I would either have nothing to do or I'd have my work finished. I would go to my boss and say, like, hey, is there anything to do or anything you want to get me started on? It's like, no, we're just going to wait for feedback and we'll let you know. I'm like, okay, then I'm going to split. And, like, it was actually funny because that was actually really welcomed in that environment. It's like, if you have nothing
super nice.
If you have fucking nothing to do, we don't want to waste your time. It's the principle that your time is only valuable when it's valuable to us. That kind of mentality sucks.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
well, and that's, I guess that's really it. And, you know, it's kind of the same nature as, like, the post I wrote on it before. Mm-hmm. But that's, I think, because the idea comes up so often in my mind. It's like, dude, and, like, I've carved out a niche for myself, so I shouldn't really complain. But I still get the sense that there's this, like, you know, look, you have to be around in order to be on this team. And it's like, bullshit. No, I don't. Like, this is the 21st...
So you're LeBron James of your workplace.
Well, if so, that's incredibly flattering, because that means as soon as I leave, it's gonna collapse.
Yes.
And we're gonna win a bunch of titles of some kind. I don't know. I'll think about that part later.
And you get a bunch of gold stars on your TPS reports, whatever the fuck you do. I still don't know what the fuck you do.
Great. Office Space jokes. Never heard those in the
Actually, it's a
workplace.
Terry Tate office linebacker joke, because that's the only shit I really know it from. You
Oh,
know, you need
yeah,
a
I
cover
remember
sheet
that.
and your TPS reports. Richard.
Rickard.
That ain't new, baby. That ain't new, baby.
I like Rickard. I like those little portmanteaus you accidentally come up with. Like one time I called a helicopter a helichopter. And I was like, oh, that's so much cooler.
That's a Rossism right there. Someone's thrown a wrench into this triangle.
That train has sailed. You know, every good has a bad.
God, fire truck, drive away.
Yeah. Oh, I hope they turn on the horns. Dude, they do that in the middle of the night because, I mean, fires don't turn off at night.
True.
But
hey, there they go.
Yeah, woo! It's like the sad ice cream man. It's so annoying having that be right next to me, though.
Yeah, well.
Just like constant stream of them.
Yeah. You got a pretty decent place. Don't worry about it.
Well, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
But it's a bummer when you're asleep and then some fire goes off and it's like, fuck.
I got the same
Did
shit.
you really have to have a fire right now?
God.
I'm trying to sleep.
Forrest.
Selfish.
Every Wednesdays.
Forrest.
Take it, dicks. But no, well, in my bedroom, I have like windows right next to God to the street, and so when it's garbage day, Look, it's like fucking like 6:30 in the morning, and you just hear like.
Dude, when I was in college, they were doing construction right across from my dorms, like renovating the area.
Yeah.
And like every morning on like Saturday, because like they don't want to do it necessarily that early on weekdays for whatever reason,
Yeah.
but like they waited for the weekends when everyone's trying to sleep in. It's like, get started at what feels like 3:15 a.m. You a-holes. Good luck sleeping, dumb college kids.
Speaking of sleeping, it's kind of weird how my sleep schedule has shifted almost entirely over the past couple of weeks.
That is weird, isn't it?
Because I get it. I started running, which is helping me a lot. If people who have known what I look like, you'll know. But it's really been helping out a lot. And I get up around 6:45 in the morning to get up and go work out, get it all done, and get on my day. But I decided to sleep in today, and my version of sleeping in is 8 o'clock in the morning. Which, if you asked any other 20-something-year-old to be like, I've slept till noon before. It's like
20-something-year-old artist in particular.
Yeah. So
my day doesn't start until 1. Although it's funny, and to try and bring it on back very expertly, creativity hits you at weird times, man.
Yeah, it
Inspiration hits you at weird times. I've been at the gym before trying to think of man, how am I going to get this Excel thing figured out for my job, where it's this is the challenge I'm presented with, what's the best way to take this complex situation and make it work out? And I'll be at the gym and I'll just be doing my thing. I'll be oh hey, what about this? And your mind will wander, and that's how we all function, man.
Yeah, it is.
More or less.
Yeah, I've had my idea for I've had ideas for original comic books, but pitter patter, whatever. It's all so much flotsam until you have the idea. And so I was just kind of sitting down. I was actually watching soccer with you. And I was just my brain was just kind of clicked. It was what if this? I'm oh, that could be good.
Yeah, that's cool, right?
Yeah, it is. And I should probably write that when I'm done with all my fan comics.
That's a good
foreshadowing.
Idea. Woo! But
Woo!
Yeah. Fan comics.
Woo! This is reminded of a game comes to play DuckTales. This sassy ass fat pink alien. He's I'm the best. I'm walking around. Look at me. I got 3 eyes. I'm the best.
I don't think I ever saw that, but that sounds pretty funny.
All right. So,
and the DuckTales game was terrible. But that's what bothers me about the state of the modern workplace.
Sure.
Is that it just doesn't. I feel like it doesn't cater to individuals the same way. And I get it. It's not like you're pigeonholed into one job or industry or workplace or office environment. You can move around. You're free to. But
it's a shift of total thinking in terms of just the culture in general.
Yeah.
Finish your point, but then,
Well, I was going to say, and it's just been such a slow developing thing for organizations to make that kind of change. Most places I've been have been really flexible about, whatever, if you need a doctor's appointment or you've got a dentist appointment or whatever it happens to be, by all means, take the time to do it. But, to me, that doesn't go far enough because I don't want to say most days, because that makes me sound really lazy and unproductive. There's nothing to do because they don't give you anything to do because they don't trust you. That's not what I mean.
Sure.
But most days, it's look, I'm very much a Legend of Zelda style worker in terms of here's the task I need to accomplish right now, and I'm super, super driven when I have a thing to do to be I'm getting this done. And then, I want to go.
Yeah.
Because I have a life. I have hobbies.
Yeah.
It's great in the middle of the day to be oh, I'm done. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go run some errands because, look, with your modern, 8 to 5, I love that people still say 9 to 5. I don't know what fucking industry you're in. I haven't seen that anywhere in a long time.
Yeah.
But, with an 8 to 5 job, you can't go do things in the middle of the day.
No.
You can't go get your, oil changed, and you can't go to the courthouse to drop off a voter registration, and you can't go do literally whatever. I could name examples for an hour.
Yeah, you could.
And it's a real bummer.
That's why everybody we'll save it for the weekend, and then everybody else does the exact same thing, and then everything is crazy shut down on weekends.
Well, and then if you do want to, or God forbid you have to go do those things, if your car is jacked up or whatever, then you have to design your whole day around it, and your whole work situation around it.
Yeah.
And if you can't avoid showing up to the office, then you have to figure out a situation there too. You have to get someone to drive you, or you've got to take public transportation, or you have to take a cab. And it's dude, I'm a grown man. Don't put me through this ringer. This is nonsense to me. Am I crazy? Am I too passionate about this?
It's one of those things where our experiences are going to be a bit different because I've always I've strived for that job of like, hey, this is what I do. I don't need to be around you because you can always talk to me. I'm always plugged into something, so just talk to me whenever you need something. If I can help you, great. If you can't, sorry. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things too, where like I was about to say, like in terms of societal changes, in terms of what people value in their lives, that's kind of goes in tandem with the archaicness of certain systems. Like, we were having lunch earlier, we talked about schools and how, like, some people just aren't fit for school, but really at the same time, it's like schools aren't really fit for us either because they haven't evolved beyond, like, however many hundreds of years it's been since, the Gregorian fucking era of school and schoolhouses have ever began.
Yeah, well, and that's a really interesting dynamic, too, is, like, the nature of evolution of things over society's, existence. Yeah. And, like, how much has changed so rapidly in like the business sector on like a macro scale, and how technology and like medical science have evolved and are continuing to evolve at like historic rates, which is awesome. And then you've got these other institutions, like, not to turn this into a real conversation, controversial hot button topic or whatever, but like look at, social rights and like gay marriage or whatever, and like those institutions never change here. They take forever. Yeah. And it's so bizarre to me.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we have these checks and balances in our system is so that no matter whatever person we want to fix things to make things better, at the same speed, another person can't fuck them up. You know what I mean?
It's true.
So, like, we have a Supreme Court and have all these things in place for a reason.
Well,
it's still archaic, but you can fix that, and we don't.
And I'm not necessarily advocating for moving hastily either, because, God, if you moved too hastily and just changed your country all willy-nilly, it could be a total disaster for you.
Totally could.
I always loved in history class, and you wonder, like, how much bias there is, but they always taught us about, like, the 5-year plans or whatever to speed up industrialization in, like, the communist parts of the world, and how it was just this, like, really concerted, like, pump the brakes, dig in your heels, we're reversing course and shifting this way, and that's our sole focus, and it's like, oh, you really did not think about this all the way through, did you?
Yeah, things only work that way when it's on a personal level, because I even hear stories about, like, assembly lines and stuff.
Right.
We invented modern industry in, like, America.
Well...
And you look at what... it was when, like, Toyota factories opened up in Japan, and, like, they had a blue flag system where, like, people were told, like, don't be quiet about your job. If you see something that could make this whole thing get streamlined or get better... raise the blue flag, we'll stop production, and tell us what's on your mind.
It's funny, that's basically the plot of the movie Gung Ho, which if you haven't seen it,
I have.
That movie's great.
When I have fond memories of my Japanese teacher, I think of Michael Keaton in that movie.
That movie's great. Michael Keaton's great in that movie. And I don't love Michael Keaton, but him as Hunt Stevenson, like in small town, whatever
Pittsburgh.
Part of the world. I want to say it was somewhere.
Small town Pittsburgh.
Suck it, Pittsburgh.
That's right, I said Schittsburg.
Ooh, girl.
You can't see me, but I'm wearing my Flyers ephemera just all over my body.
And I am wearing my Andrew McCutcheon is an overrated tool. Just kidding. I secretly love you here. But yeah, like that movie's great. The dynamic about it is really funny. And there's, I think one of the like Malcolm Gladwell books talks about plane crashes and how there historically were a bunch of like plane crashes in parts of the world. Like I think it was, I don't want to say Malaysia, 'cause that was the one that was in the news recently. I want to say it was like Korea.
Sure.
And they had just this like very rigid social hierarchy of like never question the captain or the pilot.
You told me about this.
And if something's going wrong, which is what happened in a couple of these cases, like the co-pilot is instructed not to say anything, or like is at least very strongly pressured not to. Yeah, and that's crazy.
It's like, when you told me, it's like, because I've studied Japanese, and I'm actually going to be studying Chinese very soon.
Nice.
But
what led you to that?
I'm helping out a guy with some tech he's doing, and he's going to be doing a house sitting for a person in Fiji. And he got the entire Pimsleur Chinese learning technique.
How'd you meet this person?
He's Frank's friend.
Oh, I was really just going to assume you were going to say online via sketchy spam email.
Mm-hmm. But he had the entire Pimsleur like Mandarin learning technique, and I was like, I want that whole set, thank you. And he said, sure, why not? I'll just give it to you. You're helping me out. So there you go.
It's pretty exciting. Chinese takes a long time, but
collaboration.
That's
cool. Yeah, I think a history in some Japanese will help me out. But
that's probably true.
Anyway,
much like being familiar with Spanish
Yeah.
lets you kind of
Get
start
Italian.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and French.
Yeah.
Like, my friend in college took French, and she had me read through her assignment or whatever, and I was like, so it's about this, kind of? She was like, yeah, did you take French? I was like, no, but there's a lot of cognates between them. Like, it's they're similar enough.
Non-Germanic languages.
Yeah.
Languages of the world. Latin-based stuff. There you go. Anyway, so as I was going to say, the way that people speak to each other in Asian cultures, yes, there's an authoritative thing, but like even in the way that you even address people, it's like the meta of that within those things. It's like you open up a weird continuous box where it's like, how do you address this person formally, informally, not so formally, but formal enough? Like there's 4 different ways to say that kind of shit.
Which is crazy. And there's everyone here, I'm like, what up, bitch? Literally everyone.
I would walk up to Marshall, my friend, and be like, what's up, you dirty cracker?
Nice.
And he was just like, yeah, what's up? You want to draw some shit? Yeah. What's up, my dirty cracker? I'm going to walk up to one of my friends and just say that and we'll see what he says.
I like that we weirdly have basically the same hierarchy, but like our lowest level is like calling people dirty crackers or like calling people the C word. What's the equivalent of that in Japanese? Don't answer that.
I wish I knew because like
I would have had so many opportunities to use that.
Exactly. It's like when I figured out what fuck off means or fuck you means in Japanese, and when I played a Sonic game, the first thing Robotnik says to him is fuck you, Sonic, and tries to kill him. And I'm like, yeah, what?
What game was that? I want to play it.
It was Sonic the Arcade. We had like a little trackball.
Sonic the Arcade.
Yeah, Sega Sonic the Arcade game. And it had Ray the Flying Squirrel and Mighty the Armadillo. Seriously.
I love that you have Sonic, and then you have Tails who has Tails, and you've got Knuckles who has Knuckles, and then you've got, Whatever, like, Espio and Mighty, and then it's and Ray! Good old Ray the squirrel.
That game was actually before Sonic 2. It was crazy. But yeah, the very first thing he fucking says is, fuck you, Sonic, and he pushes a little button, and then lava comes up, like, oh shit!
Damn.
That's
outstanding.
I've beaten that game, it's awesome.
Nice.
And the person who did the voice actor who did Sonic in that game went on to voice Dororo in the Keroro Gunso, or Sergeant Frog, which is just a tidbit that I know.
Since this is still ostensibly about work, I would like to mention how impressive it is that if you're trying to get into the voice acting industry, like, you've got all the peripherals on your side. You know basically every voice actor possible in every situation I've ever seen come up where it's like, oh, this person's talking, you're like, oh yeah,
I know
that's
that guy.
so-and-so, and he also did this, and it's like, you are, obviously I don't know how comprehensive it is, but you're vaguely encyclopedic.
I'm encyclopedic dick.
Encyclopedic, thank you. God, how did I not remember that? That's depressing.
I have an encyclopedic.
I don't really want to know what that means.
Cross-reference this.
Britannica.
I just like the idea of
I was more of an Encarta man myself.
We don't need you anymore, so go to computers.
But still, I'm just saying, it seems like for your career pursuits, you're at least helped out by the fact that you're passionate about it.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, let's start talking about this now. When I was a kid...
Smooth transition.
Well, I don't do that. I'm not smooth at all, but...
You're like Daniel Tosh.
Yeah. I'm way worse at this in person than I am on my show, so get used to that. I don't have transitions either. Oh, I was at the mall yesterday. No, you weren't, asshole, to your joke. I cut to the chase. I don't waste time on shit.
Just like you totally just did.
Yeah, but fucking, it's just something that's interesting to me because I remember hearing that, like, did you know that the guy who did the voice of Heifer from Rocko's Modern Life is also SpongeBob SquarePants? You're like, what? No way!
That is always kind of cool when you're young and you're like, oh, look at all these things that I'm a fan of, and you're like, that's the same guy, and like, there's a weird magnetism about it, I guess, that I can't really explain.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I look at all the things I've liked over like my life and even as a kid, and they've kind of just been the same. Like, I've always just been interested in the same things as I've gone on. I've always liked comics. I've always liked games. I've always liked performing in some way, like the voice acting thing. I never really went out for theater or anything like that because I don't like stage acting. Because I do like the net of, like, okay, you messed up, let's try it again. Because people just work better in that way. Like, I mean, some of the best stage actors in the world are the worst, like, camera actors.
Yeah, just like some of the, like, as I'm sure the listening audience could probably figure out,
Yeah.
I'm probably not an especially pleasant rapper to listen to. It's like, man, that guy's got a sick voice. But, like, I'm weirdly good at freestyling just because the skill sets are so different. Like, you just have to think quickly and then, like, know what words rhyme with each other.
Yeah. So it's amazing what you have, the skills that you have, and then that's just kind of it, because your interests and skills are led by what those are.
And that's an interesting thing, too, right? Because people always tell you, if you're frustrated at your job, which I'm not right now, but, like, the whole concept of it, I could see, easily leading to frustration at some point, just because it's like, man, I've been doing this thing that, like, I don't really care about.
It's not engaging or whatever.
Yeah, and they tell you to follow your passions, and it's kind of tough sometimes, too.
Like Carl Butan Ladalewski. I like watching porn, jerking off, and getting wasted. It's like, so how do you turn that into money? I haven't figured out who to invoice about that yet. I like sports talk radio. I love jerking it. I love getting wasted. Here, I'll keep these two tall boys and hide them behind the dumpster in case you need to get something from your car.
That's a surprisingly good Carl. I am still mystified by that.
I'm not even at my best. I'm always hard on myself. I gotta make it to heaven.
You think that's how you improve?
Yeah.
Just by being relentlessly hard on yourself?
Yes.
You're like a military father. Nothing's ever good enough for you, is it?
I'd love my kids. I'd love, like, when I'm just dicking around doing what I like, it's like, whatever. It just affects me. If it's like, I yell at my kid for, like, you burnt the loaf, like, I wouldn't do that. That'd be terrible.
I feel like we might have lost the analogy.
I'm sorry.
We might have spiraled out of
I'm
control.
not mean.
Let's pull this back on topic.
Pull this back in.
Oh my god, that's just so wrong in so many ways.
Where do you think you're going?
I was just going to say, one of the harder things I've experienced is trying to figure out what you're passionate about. And, like, you and we, to some measure, grew up with the same ones. Like,
yeah, we did.
We played a ton of video games. If you heard the episode where we did the video game podcast or whatever, or draft, that was born out of our childhoods. And we watched a lot of cartoons, and we watched a lot of TV, and, like, we weren't especially fond of going outside because I get sunburnt incredibly easily. And
Skins about white as white out ink.
Well, and like, I grew up loving sports, and I still do, and it's like, I guess those are my passions, but it's still so hard to figure out how to distill that into some career, you know, because there's so many things that could mean.
It's especially weird to see the industries that have popped out of that alone. Because I look at the people, like, I look at what I'm trying to do with trying to gain, like, an internet presence and trying to make something work with that. Look at the fucking people like Markiplier and PewDiePie and the entire, like, YouTube kind of nation that's formed up of people who do, like, Let's Plays and walkthroughs and sketch comedy and just what YouTube has just kind of spiraled into this amazing force. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, these guys are just playing games and acting like goofballs.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what the entertainment industry really is.
Well, and I guess that's also kind of a right place, right time thing, because
totally.
If you were growing up and you were, like, in a class and they were giving you one of those career tests.
One of these days,
and
we're
they were
going to
like,
talk with our thumbs.
Yeah, well, and they were like, well, what do you want to do for a living? Like, I just want to play video games. And people would be like, well, good luck, degenerate. Like, obviously not to a, whatever, first grade
It's
kid.
really interesting because I remember...
teacher was a really bad teacher.
Oh, that had some. Anyway, it's funny because I look back at... He hits you with a ruler when
Sit down and study.
Stop crying, do schoolwork. When I was in middle school, I took one of those stupid, like, personality, career apathy. Career apathy.
Career apathy. Wow. Damn. I think we just stumbled upon a great parody idea. The career apathy test instead of the career ambition test. What career will you eventually grow hating? Grow to hate.
No. So I'm
writing that down.
I took that test, and the very first fucking thing was, like, voice actor. And then the next one after that was, like, video game designer, and the third one was comic book illustrator.
But see, I will offer a counter to that in that those are very, very self-directed tests. Like, at the time, I wanted to be a journalist, and when they made us take ours in high school, the first one was, like, writer, and the second one was journalist, strictly because the questions were like, what do you consider your skills and interests? And I was like, I guess writing.
Yeah, but
and,
at
like,
the same
all it
time,
gave me was this very vague, like, go be a writer. Like, oh, it's so easy.
Right, but I still think it's that kind of shit that you would point to at the same time if it was, like, something that was negative in your life at the same time it was positive. Because I remember when you told me about when Evan took the test and, like, his very first answer was, like, professional athlete. and then the next one was like Garbage Man. It's like there's a bit of a drop off there.
The other part of that, which I will refrain from naming the names, but our friend got model, which he was like, "That's great. We want to be a model," and we were like, "Buddy, test can't see you.
Oh,
It's just based on your answers. So great, but
Damn.
like, I don't feel like this is the best result."
launch octopus. I think it's a good idea.
But I don't know. It's a fun and interesting topic, and
Yeah.
that's kind of why I picked it. I feel like this formless chat has actually gone pretty well so far.
Yeah, I mean, so
The audience is like just shaking their head silently, like, "No.
what are you talking about,
What
launch
are they-
octopus?
What are they doing? Why are there so many references in here?"
What are all the gestures you made that we didn't get, which people groaned at? So what it also comes down to is that I'm like a guy who likes to solve problems. Like when I see something, I like to just jump into it and try to fix it.
Sure.
So when I hear all these things you're talking about, it's just like, okay, so things are kind of not necessarily in disrepair, but they're in a state where it's like, what would make it better? So do we want to like list ideas of like what we could do to make these systems better or work?
Yeah. I mean,
Because like
I don't know.
Because my idea would be like in terms of that entire workplace mentality. If you want to maintain that, I mean, you can have a building where people go and work still. That's not like a problem. Having like it's about understanding what work is more than what it means to be a part of that team, I guess.
Right.
Because like you said, like the culture kind of surrounds this thing where like the more like you get off earlier or you leave sooner or you have other things to do that you don't care about your work, and it's not true. It's like people just need to have a basic understanding that things are different. That humans, because like you look at 1950s era, like Joe Sixpack, Jane Winebox, and it's like everybody kind of
I've
had.
never heard the term Jane Winebox. That's terrific.
But so they had like clear, is the word delineations, like of who they were, what
absolutely.
role they fit, where you're gonna go, where you're gonna be, and even when it came to your leisure time, like. I mean, it might be just because it's a remnant of, like, the 50s TV Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best bullshit.
Well, and,
But,
like, socially speaking, it's not like there was as great of an acceptance of women in most careers.
Sure.
So it's like, if you're passionate about this, like, tough luck.
Even
and
then, too.
that sucks, but...
Even then, like, when it came to these things that were clearly marked in your society, you knew that everybody else was following, like, the same rule book. So, you would have, like, a company bowling team or baseball team or golf team. If you didn't like it, it was pretty much tough luck, or people just didn't give a shit about you.
Right.
Like, because your leisure time, your work life, and your home life were all basically connected by what you
totally
did,
intertwined.
how you did it, and not even why you did it, but you just have to do it. So when you look at so many people accepting what we are now, everybody is different.
Yeah.
Everybody. It's this welcoming of the individual. We're not units anymore.
Right. Well, and that's what always kills me. So the workplace you described before, there's a great, great TED Talk by a guy named Dan Pink, which is a wonderful, wonderful TED Talk. And I hate being that guy that's like, "Oh, this TED Talk, I'm going to project my knowledge onto it so I sound smarter." I make no claim to be anywhere near as great as he is.
Yeah.
It's about, the concept of work in the modern workplace environment and how we as people seek, the concepts of autonomy, of mastery, and of purpose, like, independently of being told we're supposed to seek them.
Yeah.
And if we're given the chance to, like, do it of our own volition, basically, then most people do, and they're happier, and they're more engaged, and they're more productive, and those feelings are really hard to ignore, especially when they're part of, so many studies that he cites a couple, and then he wrote a couple books where he mentions more, but it's like, look, this happens. This is true. And I went through a round of interviews for jobs before I got the one I have now.
Yeah.
And every place I was like, all right, tell me about your work-life balance. Tell me about your flexibility. And so many places still are convinced that, like, their idea of work-life balance is like, well, we give you vacation days, which is like, all right, fine, thanks, I guess. And it's like, well, and we give you discounts on, like, being able to go to the gym, and we give you, like, some other perks, and it's like, that's cool.
Spend your money at the company store.
Well, and it's like, that's cool, but that misses the purpose to me entirely, which is like, my work-life balance isn't the amount of things I can buy or get access to from you.
You know,
it's the amount of things I can do with my free time. I'm a human being.
It was
Christ
I had this same conversation with Dad about like the American perspective is that the more money you have, the better off you really are, and not to be this kind of like hippie ass dude like it's all about the love and shit. It's like life is about more. And that's just kind of it. But what more means is individual. Like if you do just want a hell of a lot of money to take care of all of your problems, fine, go after it, go nuts.
Well,
but it's the people who think like it's like the perspective shift for me was to live by what you value, not necessarily have a goal based life. Because people who often have a lot of goals think that if I do this one thing, I'm going to be happy, and if I can't reach that, I'm going to be unhappy.
And it's just like Sisyphus rolling the rock up the hill, and you just end up like, well, I've reached a new spot. And now I'm unhappy again, so let's start rolling up toward this new thing.
Yep.
And it's very rare I get to do this, but I'm going to drop a little economic concept on you.
Oh, damn.
Don't get the klaxons too warmed up. It's not going to be that great, because I don't remember it all that well. But the concept is basically that, like, that income and happiness is a backward bending curve.
Yeah.
Which is, if you're dirt poor, you're not especially happy. If you're below the poverty line, you're not especially happy.
Yeah.
If you're like middle income or like middle high income, you're pretty happy. And once you're at like a pretty high level of income, the happiness is maximized. But at a certain point, you start to value, as your like income goes up, you start to value it less just because of what it's costing you in terms of your time or whatever.
Yeah,
which I think is a very true concept.
They talk about, I actually watched a game theory about this. They were talking about the people who have, like, won the lottery. It's like there was no, like...
That's such a sad, like, thing.
What do you think I was going to say?
Just about how a lot of the people that end up winning the lottery end up poorer and or, like, homeless and or more depressed or suicidal than they were before they won, just because of the complications.
This was a different study, I think, because it was talking about how...
you tell yours, forget I said the depressing things.
It was how the increase of, like, money earned and won or whatever, it didn't lead to more happiness. They were just about as happy as they were if they didn't win a lottery. And also, it was also found in like people who were like handicapped, like who were part of accidents and stuff. Like there's a bit of a dip in your happiness because you get used to what's happened to you.
Right.
But people who have like lost a leg or become paralyzed, there's no real just dramatic shift where their life is over. They're still as happy.
Well, happiness is this like elastic thing.
Yeah.
It absolutely is, where it's you adapt over time.
Yeah.
And if you go through a breakup or whatever, and you're miserable for however long...
Just eat a few tubs of ice cream, you'll be back on track in no time.
That's usually... Everyone knows ice cream has a magical elixir inside of it that cures breakups.
Ice cream premium. Ice creamium premium.
But, like, you're fine after a couple weeks or months or whatever, depending on the severity, and then you're back to normal. And you're like, okay, great. Like, it sucks that it happened, but that defines us. And, like, similarly, when a good thing happens, like, oh my god, we just bought this new house... And we got it for like $50,000 below market value.
Yeah.
And this is the house of my dreams, and I'm incredibly excited about it. And then, the afterglow of it wears off. You can do this with anything.
The same principles can usually be applied to. So,
but to me, then that gets to the point of seeking happiness through work and through employment or whatever.
Yeah.
To me, is kind of always that same scale of like, give me the time to do whatever I want when I want to do it. And maybe this sounds like a whiny millennial problem, but I think it's really true. Like, there are times where it's like, look, I'm not going to give you my best at work. Like, I don't feel great, and, that sucks, but it's the reality. I can come be in your office for 8.5 or 9 hours and do exactly the same as I could get done in, like, 4.
Yeah.
So why go through the charade?
Yeah, it's that kind of thing, too, like the millennial issues. It's like, people try to... It's like the people who shout down the internet back in, like, the 90s. Like, who's going to see the huge backlash? No one's going to use the internet anymore. It's like, are you fucking stupid?
I love that people are willing to systematically attack a group of other people, because the backlash against that backlash is that, like, huge swaths of the internet, including, like, the vast majority of, Reddit as a whole, hate the baby boomers. They're like, fuck you guys. You're the ones always complaining about how lazy we were. You gave us this shitty world. It's your fault. Go die. It's like, whoa, slow
down, Jack.
Yeah, this is crazy.
It's funny because as a Generation Y, I don't really get that, because Generation X were the people that were like, the end of history. That's on you guys.
Well, and I love that everyone acts like, and whatever, it'll probably happen when we're older, be like, fucking kids. We didn't have quantum iPads when we were young. We had to wait until our 20s.
We didn't have eyes where we could see everything in front of us at all times.
But, like, every generation is shaped by the world around it in some measure.
That
and, like,
gets into some, like, Blade Runner shit, too, because when you have, like, cyber augmentation, oh my god.
That would be awesome.
We'll talk about that next time. So,
Episode 5, Chainsaw Arms. But, yeah, I don't know. Every generation is shaped by whatever happens around it, and they all play their important part in history, and, like, people are so willing to look back and be like, God, that's really all you guys accomplished. It's like, come on,
dude.
What were they?
Just because
like,
you
what
don't
were some
understand your
generations
iPad.
supposed to do?
Yeah.
Well, and, like, the other funny thing, which is very off topic to me,
Yeah.
is how funny it is when people look back on medical science and like they used to bleed people with leeches. God, they were so stupid. And it's like, dude, like, I get it. It looks funny now, but, like, how would you have known?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how would you have known?
It's like when you saw the ads, like, your child have a cough, use heroin. They would sell heroin cough suppressants.
Oh, man.
And it's like, wow, little Billy's not coughing anymore. In fact, he's kind of just sitting there zoned out.
Yeah, well, you cured his cough, and you added the additional cure of his life in that he no longer has it either.
Okay.
He's dead.
So if we could all just wrap this up with a nice little bow with a whipple-effect pro tip.
Do it.
Live by what you value. If you value sunshines and rainbows, go live in a place that's sunny. If you can't, you might as well just die.
I'm unclear. Is this a metaphor or is this literal advice?
This is
the worst advice I've ever heard.
This
is like Kanye West's self-help book, but worse.
There's one?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Have you not seen that? Oh, look it up.
Is it just a mirror and it's a drawing of him? It's like, you wish you were me.
It happened so long ago that I barely remember it's real, and it's possible I dreamed it in a fever dream just out of wishful thinking. But I believe it's a book of just, like, pictures of him and quotes of him saying things like, get used to getting used. And it's like,
oh!
what? This is not an advice book. This is definitely not...
This is like some pretentious dude's Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, wow.
Okay.
That's real deep, quoting yourself.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a joke, but still. Whipple-effect pro tip. Live by what you value. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily going to be concrete or tangible. It's going to be what you value. Find out what that is and just live it.
And I guess my pro tip, insofar as it's possible, would be workplaces. Give your people a chance to be themselves. Give them a chance to live what they value. It's real hard to go out there and take care of yourself and discover your hobbies and passions and dreams when you're anchored to a thing for such a long part of the day.
Yeah. And
don't conflate time with productivity, because that's a logical fallacy, and I will hear none of it. And that's a really long tip. It's definitely not going on a bumper sticker.
Whatever your name is, pro tip.
Woo. Fucking expensive hipster frisbee. I always thought it'd be fun.
Could you do frisbee golf with iPads?
I was just gonna say, I think it'd be awesome if they made a frisbee app where, like, all it did was change the screen to, like, the top of the frisbee.
It's like Windjammer.
The new extremely wealthy person hobby iPad golf.
And you see, like, the friggin', like, nets they throw them into. They're, like, diamond necklaces on top of, like, solid gold, like, nets and shit. Oh my god.
Solid gold nets.
And the solid gold, like, poles.
Now this sounds less like a rich person hobby and more like a Scrooge McDuck hobby. Is that our second DuckTales reference? That's impressive.
That is pretty funny, because I was thinking
Not
about,
where
like,
I saw that going.
Yeah, I'm imagining what they do in Dubai all this time, and I'm like, yeah, a giant sapphire giraffes holding diamond necklace nets as they throw iPads into them.
My favorite thing about Dubai, while we're talking about
Spec Ops
crazy
the Line.
stuff, well, you see a lot of it in the game. They build so many crazy things there, including those, like, manufactured islands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they make the land out of the water. It's like, dude, that's crazy. That's awesome, though. If Dubai weren't, like, a totally sketchy place, by all accounts.
Like the United Arab Emirates.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know.
Like the rest of you.
Wow. I'm just saying, if it weren't a sketchy place with, like, way too much wealth to not be at least a little corrupt,
yeah,
I would be like, you know what? I'm gonna go try and get a job on one of those islands, because
Hell
that
yeah.
would be sweet.
And pour you coconut milk. funny enough, I mentioned the whipple-effect pro tip.
Needs more echo.
I know. I wish I knew enough about fucking sound design to do that, but I don't.
That's a bummer.
I can learn more. I can do that. So as I was trying to figure that stuff out, like I came up with that. I came up with like the whipple-effect, and I was like, I wonder if that's an actual thing, because that's the kind of stuff you look up when you come up with cool stuff.
Like the Doppler effect.
Yeah. Like I was just looking if there was anything about it, and I saw an Urban Dictionary entry, and it was like, I wonder what the hell this is. And let me actually read you the exact post.
Oh no. I don't feel like this is going to go well, but...
The whipple effect is a gross misuse of time and resources in lieu of an obvious, easy solution. This is often seen in television newsrooms. The perpetrator often is short and skinny with a mustache, i.e. he looks like Mr. Whipple. His past experiences are marketed to the victims as he knows everything.
What language was this written in?
I don't even know, but I saw that.
Look at this.
And I just love the first line. A gross misuse of time and resources in lieu of a simple solution. I'm like, that's me.
Wink. Ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Superman.
So yeah, I guess we're done. That was fun. Again, like I kind of checked in midway. Like I thought that went pretty well. We covered a lot of ground.
I checked in midway, took off the sunglasses, actually started giving a shit.
First of all, if I gave a shit, I would have kept the sunglasses on, because that's how you know I'm cool and
Serious business.
and mean business.
Right.
But yeah, I thought that a lot of cool ground was covered. Hopefully, it was at least a little entertaining as well as thought provoking.
It's edutainment. That's what we do here.
Wow, that sounds like something MTV would have called their programming in the 90s. Edutainment.
What does it teach you?
Well, what doesn't it teach you?
Ugh.
That everyone cool wears starter jackets and Fila shirts?
Dude, I like Fila shirts. I like Fila jackets. But whatever. Edutainment. I got edutainmented.
I can't stay mad at you.
You pinchy little cheeks. So I was thinking about a topic for the next episode.
All right, lay it on me, because clearly I'm actually not good at this.
It's not that. It's just that I've led 3 topics or so far. But
Whatever.
anyway, I play video games. I went through game design school, and I'm an artist, so I kind of just noticed these things. But I wanted to talk about the presence of Japanese video games in the Western market and stuff like that. Because I bought a game called Killer is Dead, which is made by one of my favorite studios, Grasshopper Manufacturer. And they did a lot of really great games that I have a lot of memories of. And No More Heroes is one of them. The Samurai Champloo game for PS2 is great. But I buy this, a brand new IP with the same amount of like crazy over-the-top bullshit they could ever put in any of their games.
I like to point out, starting off a description of a game with crazy over-the-top bullshit is usually not how people express that they like a game.
No, because I love that.
Funny.
Because, like, the third mission you get in there, you go to a moon mansion and you fight a dude who's, like, God.
What's the problem? That sounds amazing.
But it's the mechanics.
I led you back into it. That was, like, a thing I did.
Thank you. Anyway.
I know.
So I want to talk about that because it's something that's I've noticed a lot of, and a lot of people have even talked about in, like, modern gaming. What's their presence here, especially in a Western-dominated now market? What does their presence mean? What do they do? And I wanted it from my perspective, from a person who A, grew up with Japanese games, and B, to an extent, still loves them.
Sure.
So that would be what I want to talk about next time.
Is this by yourself or with me?
I want to do it with you because you played games too.
Okay. And I would be a great foil for you because, kind of like the body image one, and again, I don't mean to imply it was irrelevant, but like I didn't care about it per se.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what to think, so.
Also, your experience with games is very different from mine, too.
Yeah. So I think that'd be a great counterpoint.
Yeah.
It's almost as though 2 people started a thing where their different experiences were meant to provide an interesting contrast of ideas on different topics. That'd be so weird, right?
Wouldn't that suck? Wouldn't that be boring? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You need to shut up, man.
I would never, ever, ever do that. Especially with someone in my family. It'll never happen.
I'm gonna write a in my body for all the I'm laying on you. God.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for the next post/podcast.
Yeah, the people I have to deal with.
That dude, that's one thing I've never got about, like, porn, like, internet porn or whatever, is the, like, you know, whatever, there's so much of it. There is so much.
Yeah.
And I just don't get why you would go for the, oh, yeah, I'm going to go with the girls with the cameras and then buy them stuff. Like, does that give you more of a connection? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, I didn't know people did that. I just said, like, you know, hey, I have a convenient place to have all my shit written down no matter where I go.
The other one... Oh, you're talking about the wish list. I thought you were still talking about porn.
No,
I was like, wow.
What?
You are meticulous.
I make sure to have all my websites listed with all my favorite vids, 5 stars across the board. Brie Olson likes sex good.
I wish
with
there...
Tessa Lane wishes out her luscious baps.
I wish there was like a Yelp for porn sites. Like 3 out of 5, way too many Asian videos. They're like, ew.
Why'd you?
But at the same time, good to know.
Dude, you're gross. But where would they be looking?
Always has pop-ups for Live Jasmine and Punish Tube. Fucking, come on, get your shit together. That said, I Jade here like 5 times yesterday. 5 out of 5.
That's probably what they would be like.
I just like
eloquent and depraved.
Are you still sound testing?
Maybe.